Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, what up? So today I'm going to be doing the if I could only keep 10 eyeshadow palettes video. This was requested by one of my subscribers, and I thought that it would be interesting to do this video because I have watched a couple of these and it was fun seeing everybody pick out 10 eyeshadow palettes that they would use for, I guess, the rest of their life, or if something happened to all of their makeup, these are the only 10 palettes that they would have. So it was fun watching that because, you know, everybody's makeup style is different. Everybody's preference is different. What they like is different. So it was really interesting seeing that, and I hope you guys are going to find my video interesting because I did pick these palettes based off of my makeup style, what I like to wear, and how the palettes make me feel as well. All this time doing makeup, I've learned over the years what I really like as far as eyeshadow goes and what I'm really into. So I like color, but I don't like a lot of color. Like blues and greens and all that's not really my thing. When I go for color, I go for more of like the pinks, the reds, kind of like purple tones. That's what I go for. And then of course I wear a lot of neutrals and warm tones because that's just me. That's who I am. So hopefully you guys find my palette choices interesting regardless. And yeah, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first palette that I'm going to talk about is the palette that's currently on my eyes right now, and it was on my eyes yesterday in my last video. This is the ABH Reezy palette. So when this palette first came out, I tried to talk myself out of getting it because I was just like, I don't need to buy that palette. I have those colors and everything, but I'm so glad that I got this palette because this is me in a palette. When she made this, she made me in a palette. So everybody knows what this palette looks like, but this is perfect for me just because it has the colors that I use all the time. So it has warm tone transition colors that I really like. It has some purpley type colors, pinks. It has black, it has bronzes, it has gold. I have the gold on my eyes today. This is just an all-encompassing palette and I love it so much. Every time I use this palette, I love the eye looks that I get from it, as basic as they are or as basic as they may seem. This palette just speaks to me. I just love it so much. It has pressed glitters in it. Y'all know I love pressed glitters. It has a black. It just has everything that I need in it, and it suits me very well. I enjoy using it every time I pick it up. It's definitely one that I would have to keep in my collection, and it's not even for the fact that it's a newer palette. Even if I had this palette for like 3 years already, it probably would still be one that I would still pick up just because, like I said, that's me in a palette. So the next palette I'm going to mention is also ABH, and these are the only two ABH palettes that I felt the need to keep around, and y'all should already know it's the Jackie Aina palette. Once again, this palette has everything that I need in it. It has purples, it has pinks, it has duochromes, it has great transition shades, like it has golds. It just has everything in it that I would need to be happy. It also has this super fiery red shade, Wigglies, warm tones. I mean, it just has everything in it. So again, it's an all-encompassing palette, something that I really enjoy using, something that I get beautiful looks out of every time I do a look with this palette. I love it. So I just felt the need to put it in my like top 10, I guess, or 10 eyeshadow palettes that I would keep. It's just amazing, and this packaging is everything. Same with the Reezy palette. Like these package, just looking at the packaging makes me happy. So gotta keep those. So then I have two custom palettes that I decided to put in this just because, I mean, it wouldn't be a perfect eyeshadow palette collection, I guess, if I didn't have a palette that I curated myself or a palette that I put together myself. So both of these palettes are from Colourpop. One of them was already a pre-made palette, and I just switched the colors around and put colors in that I felt that it needed for it to be a perfect palette for me. And then the other one is just a curated palette that I made on the website. So this is my Colourpop like Z palette, and not counting the blush and highlighter that's in here, but this palette speaks to me. Once again, you have warm tones, you have pinks, you have golds. This is just something that I need in my collection. This is the palette that I made specifically for like the spring and summertime because these colors are just exactly what I would use. Like if you guys watched my video yesterday, then I had on similar colors to what's already in this palette. So again, it's just something that I gravitate towards naturally. These are my types of colors. These are colors that I look at and get super excited to use. I get super happy to use them. It's corals, it's oranges, it's pinks, golds, yellows. It's just me and a palette. Once again, I feel like I'm gonna be repeating myself this whole video, but it's literally like these are my palettes that I chose for my makeup style. So it's like I can only say so many things about them because it's just like it's gonna be repetitive. So but yeah, this is like a really cute, perfectly created palette for me, so I really like that one. And then the next one is also from Colourpop. This is their Bare Necessities palette, but if you guys watch my review of this palette, then you would know that I changed out a lot of the shades in here. I took some out, I added some in, and I made it my perfect Bare Necessities palette. And so this is what mine looks like currently. So basically this would be my go-to neutral palette. It has everything in it that I could ever need. It has a bunch of transition shades, it has a bunch of shimmer shades ranging from light to dark, it has black in it, it has a lot of outer V colors, it has a couple of like purpley pinky tone colors. It literally just has everything in it as far as my neutral palette. And I have actually been picking this palette up a lot. I mentioned it in a favorites video. I believe it was January or February favorites video. I mentioned this palette, but it's because I really do like it. I like picking it up, even if it's just for one shade for like my outer corner or something. I still like picking up this palette because I know it has everything in it that I myself put in, and so it's gonna be perfect every time that I use it. So yeah, I just had to include this one in my 10 palettes. So these next two palettes are oldie but goodies. One of them I mentioned in my yearly favorites, I believe it was, and I told you guys that no matter how old this palette got, it probably would still be a palette that I would want to keep in my collection, just because again, every time I use the shadows in this palette, the look turns out bomb. It looks amazing. It gives me that effect that I want on my eyes, and it's everything. So I'm talking about the Dose of Colors Francation palette. I don't even need to speak on this too much because everybody knows about this palette. I mean, I don't have to say anything. I still feel like these shimmers in this palette are some of the best that I've ever used, and like I said, they just give me that effect on my eyes that I'm always looking for. Y'all know I like glittery, sparkly, shiny things that give like that three-dimensional effect to the eyes, and these shimmer shadows are it. I also really like the fact that these mattes, they show up darker on your skin than what they look like in the pan. I believe this was one of the first eyeshadow palettes that I had that experience with, where I'm looking at the shadow in the pan and I'm like, there's no way that that could work for my skin tone, but then I put it on my eyes and it's like, it works. It's darker than what it looks like in the pan. Colourpop has some shadows like that as well, but this was one of the first palettes that I ever experienced that with, and so it changed my whole outlook on how shadows look in the pan and how they look on your skin. So now I always give transition shades a chance before I completely write them off as being not for me. You know what I'm saying? So I just really enjoy this palette. Again, it has pinks, it has some greens in there, it has a black. It's perfect, so gotta keep it. The next oldie but goodie palette is a palette from a year ago that I used this a couple days ago, and I just was like, I still love this palette just as much as I did when it first came out. When it was first released, I was like, this was the best palette of 2019 in my humble opinion. Was it? Was it? Nah, it was the best palette that was released at the beginning of 2019. So this is the Colourpop Sweet Talk palette. This is still one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes. So beautiful, gorgeous palette. I use it pretty consistently. Like I said, I just used it the other day. Now that it's springtime, I'm definitely going to be using it a lot more because these are my type of colors. You have warm tones in here, you have corals, you have pinks. This super shock shadow is beautiful to top off literally any eyeshadow. I don't care if it's blue, if it's green, if it's purple, if it's pink, if it's orange, if it's red. This super shock shadow is the perfect topper to any eyeshadow that you put on your lid. I love using that to top off anything. I love putting it on my inner corner as well. The pressed glitters in here are still amazing, like just as amazing as they were when I first used them. Matter of fact, I used this palette I used this palette a couple days ago, but then I also used one of the pressed glitters in another look that I did, and I was just like, I'm still so obsessed with these pressed glitters. They're kind of hard to swatch, but there they go right there. So this is Prima Drama, and this is Early Morning. So y'all should already know how this palette looks. As you guys can see, I've already hit pan in one of the shades because I just genuinely use this consistently all the time. The next palette I'm going to mention is one that I haven't gotten a ton of use out of, but I have used it, I would say, at least 5 times, and every time that I've used it, I've really liked the look that I got from it, and it's just one that I get so interested in every time I see it. This is the Urban Decay Naked Honey eyeshadow palette, another palette that I was trying to talk myself out of buying because I was just like, I do not need that palette. But then once I kept seeing it, I was just so obsessed with it, and I was just like, yeah, I really need to go and get that palette. Like I said, I've only used it a handful of times, and it actually looks untouched, but I promise I have used this. And yeah, every time I use it, I just really like the look that I get from it, and every time I look at it, I want to use it. I get interested in using it. So I'm like, yeah, this is definitely one that I want to keep. And it's also pretty unique to my collection as far as neutral tones that have a yellow undertone to it. I have a lot of neutrals. I have a lot of transition shades. I have a lot of browns, but they're not all like mustardy, warm, yellowy, kind of like that pukey color. I don't have a lot of those, and since this palette contains multiples of those, I felt that this would be a palette that I really wanted to keep as well. So yeah, and then it has golds and, you know, like greeny golds and yellowy golds, so it's my type of palette. So definitely wanted to keep this one. Another palette that I have here, this is from Too Faced, and this came out last year around the holiday time. So this is the Too Faced Gingerbread Extra Spicy. Once again, another palette that I was trying to talk myself out of buying. I was trying to talk myself out of buying a lot of these palettes, but they sucked me in because they're that good, and they resonate with me so well. Like I said, since I know my makeup taste and I know what I like now, these palettes all resonate with me for a reason. So this is the Too Faced Extra Spicy palette. Once again, it's just another one that every time I use it, I love the looks that I get out of it. I love that it has these like more textured eyeshadows like Candy Queen and Spicy Mommy. Those really give dimension to the eyes. I really like the transition colors in here. So you have a coral, you have like a yellowy, orangey type of shade, you have a red, you have a pink. Really pretty. It has all the colors that I want. It has all the colors that I could need. I use this palette for work. I've used it for going out. I used it during the holidays. I just really like the palette. The shimmers in here are really nice. It's just a palette that I can see myself always using or always grabbing for. And it smells really nice. It makes me happy when I open this palette and I smell it. It makes me happy. So my last 2 palettes are from Colourpop, and these are pretty new to my collection. I literally just mentioned both of these in my favorites video, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. I'm just going to mention them really quick. So these are my Nude Mood and All That palette. So this one was released with the Valentine's collection, and once again, the type of palette that it is just one that I wanted to keep. So I kept this palette because it has these nice purpley reddish pink tones in it that I really like, and I find myself even just using one shade out of this palette for a look. Yeah, I really like the tones in this palette. I like the eyeshadows in this palette. I just really like this palette. And then the Nude Mood palette, again, like I said, it's a neutral palette, but there's something different about this neutral palette because I'm always grabbing for it. I always want to use it over like my other neutral palettes. It's so small and compact. It only has 9 shades, so you don't really have to think about your look too much. All you have to think about is, what am I going for? Do I want to go for something bronzy on the lid? Do I want to go for something a little bit more gold? Do I want to go for something a little bit more champagne with this like Super Shock shadow that I can put over top of eyeshadows, or just wear it on the lid alone? That's the only thing that you have to think about with this palette. I love this so much. I'm always using it, constantly using it. When I was actually going to work, this is one that I wanted to put on my eyes every day, but I had to take a step back from it, like, girl, use your other stuff, okay? But yeah, this is definitely one that I would want to keep in my top 10 palettes. So that was all 10, literally all 10 of my palettes. And yeah, like I said, I hope it wasn't too boring for you guys seeing all of these neutral tone palettes, but that's me, that's who I am, that's what I like, that's my makeup style, clearly. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and let me know in the comments down below what your 10 palettes are, or if you couldn't even decide on 10 palettes, just let me know in the comments down below. If you're new, definitely hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification so that you're notified every single time I upload a video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Peace.